President Trump is heading to North Dakota in his new Qatari jet amid revelations that he has been raking in a whopping $2.2 billion windfall last year. And yes, that is billion with a B. Most of this money is coming from crypto, a complex and somewhat shadowy industry the president himself regulates. And it's all raising concerns about how Trump and his family may be making money off the presidency.
I don't get involved in my personal. We have funds that run my money. You know why I'm profiting? Because the stock market's going up. Everybody's profiting. So we're all profiting. I'm profiting because I have a lot of money and a lot of cash.
It's an especially painful contrast right now. As Americans report they're struggling to pay their bills, 1/3 of Republicans say inflation and prices are their top concern. And 71% of voters aren't sure the president has his priorities straight. Case in point, his dismissal of the bipartisan housing affordability bill.
I think it's so unimportant by compared to the Save America Act. Some people say it's wonderful. To me, compared to the Save America Act, just about everything is a big yawn.
Housing affordability, I guess it's just a bore to the White House. And although Congress is supposed to be a co-equal branch of government, they're fully tied in knots right now over the president's priorities. In fact, their work has completely ground to a halt. They're getting out of town early for July 4th, leaving the House with only 24 legislative days before the midterms. Let's bring in, to break all this down, Bloomberg White House correspondent Jeff Mason, Deputy White House Press Secretary in the first Trump administration, Sarah Matthews, and Forbes senior editor Dan Alexander. And he is the author of White House Incorporated, How Donald Trump Turned the Presidency into a Business. Jeff, I'm going to start with you. Is this White House concerned at all with the optics here of the president hopping on a Qatari gifted jet amid these new crypto concerns?
Well, I think the answer to that is no. It's not a concern for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone in this direction. President Trump is super excited about that plane. And every time you ask a White House official about his business and his family business and whether or not he's profiting off of his presidency, they dismiss that and talk about him having high ethical standards and this not being an issue. So, no, I don't think they're concerned, but others are. And that carries political risk for him. Certainly at the same time when the housing bill that you were just referencing in the intro is not moving forward, at least right now so far, without his signature. Maybe it'll become law without his signature. I actually asked him that question in the Oval Office on Monday, and that answer about it being a yawn can't have been what his Republican colleagues wanted to hear on the Hill at a time when affordability is going to be a buzzword in the midterms and at a time when they're trying to hold on to power in Congress. So should it be his concern? That's not for me to answer. Is it a concern? It doesn't appear to be.
Sarah, we're, of course, learning the president has been railing against Republicans who tanked a vote to get the Save America Act passed, the election-related bill that the president's obsessed with. That's what he's insisting gets done, as you just heard Jeff spell out there, too, is sort of an exchange for this housing affordability issue. When you look at the dynamics here, what does it tell us about this president, the people around him, and their priorities?
I think that if President Trump was doing everything in his power to tank Republicans' chances in the midterms, he wouldn't be doing anything differently. That's what it seems like. It seems like he does not care about the party, which he never has, to be fair. He has never cared about what is good for the betterment of the Republican Party. He has only ever cared about himself and accumulating as much power as possible. And that's what his voter suppression bill, the Save America Act, would do. And he's so hung up on the 2020 election that is what his priority is. He doesn't care about affordability. He's called it a hoax, said that Democrats have created it. He obviously doesn't care about housing, called this unimportant. And I know that had a lot of Republicans on the Hill who were wanting to bang their head against the wall when they heard him say that. Because, look, when you look at something like housing, that is a big deal for voters, especially of my generation, where affording a home and buying a home is out of reach for most of us. And so then when there is this bipartisan bill that is is an easy win for Republicans in the midterms to point to as a tangible thing that they did to address the affordability crisis, Trump has to immediately make it all about himself and try to use it as leverage to get what he wants passed, which is not something that I think is a priority of the majority of voters right now. They don't really care about this Save America Act. They care about what is he doing to lower costs for me and my family.
Dan, you know, the split screen between what Americans are feeling, their concerns about just being able to cover basic bills and survival, contrasted with the $2.2 billion there. That is a lot of cash for the president to reveal he's made. Unimaginable for most people who are struggling right now. Can you just walk us through the breakdown of where all this money for the president has been coming from?
Yeah, it is a tremendous amount of money. And if you look at this, about $1.4 billion of that is from two crypto ventures. So first, Donald Trump launched World Liberty Financial before the election. Not too many people took notice. Then he won the election. All of a sudden, a lot of people started buying tokens of World Liberty. And the way that that business is structured, it funneled most of the proceeds back to Donald Trump. And so if you look at those token sales plus a stake sale that he later made, that gets to almost $800 million right there. Then you have his meme coin, and it appears that his meme coin has thrown off roughly $635 million. Add those two things together, you're at a really big number. But I want to emphasize something here that people might miss. It's not just that he's making a lot of money while the economy is struggling. He's making a lot of money when the investments that he pitched are struggling. The meme coin, World Liberty Financial tokens are down significantly from their highs. And the big question for Donald Trump is how much money he's able to suck out of these ventures before sort of the ruse is up, before these things continue to decline to a level where he's not able to get much more out of it. And what we see on these filings is that he's already taken a tremendous amount of money out.
Dan, do you get the sense that your average voter is aware not just of the fact that he's able to kind of pull the rug out via some of these schemes here, but then also just of the fact that he is basically the chief regulator of this industry that he and his family are now so tied into?
I do think that people are aware. And the reason that I think that people are aware is because the reason that you saw a run up in a lot of crypto assets was because of Donald Trump's own policies. Another revelation on this filing that came out yesterday was that Donald Trump personally held Bitcoin wallets worth more than $100 million. That's in addition to the indirect interest in Bitcoin that we knew he owned through Trump Media and Technology Group, which made a multi-billion-dollar bet on the cryptocurrency last summer. The value of Bitcoin was soaring when Donald Trump was elected. And then as he comes into office and throws off a lot of the restrictions, totally changes the attitude of the administration toward crypto. That creates this massive wave of money. And then it also may have created a bubble, because what we've seen now in the last handful of months is that the value of Bitcoin has decreased significantly as people sort of say, wait a second, that's it? You know, I mean, we got all these things, but how do we actually make money out of these assets? So these things are moving on his decisions, and I think investors and people are very aware of that.
Sarah, I want to play something for you that Congressman Troy Nehls recently said to Midas Touch, because it's really not just the president here. As much as people make everything that's happening here about him personally, the reality is it seems that other people in his party are not taking the issues of affordability very seriously. Take a listen to this.
How do House Republicans make the case that you're fighting for affordability when you go back to your districts?
Affordability? What are you talking about?
Well, affordability is the big...
I'm going to go there tomorrow. Over the 4th. I'm going to get me a couple big lobster tails. I'm going to get me some nice ribeyes. I'm going to sit in my backyard with my family, my neighbors.
You think that 60% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck can afford lobster tails and ribeyes and all of that?
Maybe not. Maybe the 60% of America don't work as hard as I do.
Maybe those 60% of Americans don't work as hard as I do, after he talks about lobster tails and ribeye. I mean, why would a congressman even say that right now, Sarah?
I wish I had an answer for that and could understand the inner workings of that congressman's brain. But I just think that Troy Nehls is clearly not that bright, because there's no reason you would say something like that unless you quite literally do not have any amount of or any ounce of empathy for the struggling Americans right now. Look, millions of Americans across this country are struggling right now in this economy, whether it's skyrocketing gas prices because of Trump's war of choice with Iran, or inflation causing the cost of everything to rise. And he goes out there and makes some claim like that and says, oh, well, maybe these Americans aren't working hard enough or working as hard as me. I mean, I'm actually at a loss for words. That's the first time I've seen that clip. And I can't imagine anything more tone deaf than that right now. And look, everything that this administration is doing is just exacerbating the issues that already existed. We were already facing an affordability crisis when Trump came into office, and everything he's done, whether that be the war with Iran, his asinine tariffs, and everything else in this administration, it just is making things worse. And so if I were a congressman or senator, just a Republican running in the midterms, I would be trying to run as far away from those policies as possible and speaking to my constituents or my voters and telling them what I would be doing to help address the affordability crisis, not trying to make light of it or say that they don't work hard enough. I mean, that's just such a slap in the face. And I hope that the people in his district are paying attention and vote someone like him out of office. But I think that he's in a pretty safe seat, so he can get away with making such stupid and out of touch remarks like that.